Imagine getting fined $75 for fishing in a lake you've been enjoying for years, only to find out the people fining you don't even own it. So what do? You buy the lake, and then ban the entire neighborhood from it. This is the wild story of how a quiet fisherman turned the tables and got the ultimate revenge. I got a $75 fine for fishing, from a lake I thought was public. That's when everything changed. It all started on a peaceful Sunday morning. You know the kind. Birds chirping, sun barely peeking over the rooftops, and the world still quiet. For me, it was the perfect time to sneak in a little solo fishing before the day got busy. I grabbed my old fishing rod, the same one my dad gave me when I was 12, along with a half-used can of worms I had in the fridge. I walked down the street, coffee in one hand, tackle box in the other, heading to the little lake just 2 blocks away. I'd been fishing there since we moved into the neighborhood almost 4 years ago. I always thought of it as a hidden gem, a peaceful spot tucked away in the middle of our suburban sprawl. This lake wasn't anything fancy. No lifeguards, no fences, no signs. Just calm water, a few benches, and the occasional duck or two waddling around like they owned the place. But to me, it was a sanctuary. A place to clear my head, unplug from the world, and just exist. So there I was, sitting on the edge of the bank, line cast out, and breathing in the cool morning air. I had barely reeled in my first catch, a small but decent-sized bass, when I heard tires crunching over gravel behind me. I turned around and saw a white SUV creeping down the narrow road that circled the lake. It was clean, too clean. No mud, no dents, just polished and official-looking. And then I saw him. The guy driving it looked like he walked straight out of an HOA villain starter pack. Slicked back hair, aviator sunglasses, and a clipboard pressed tightly against his chest like he was about to issue a warrant. He stepped out of the SUV like he meant business. No smile, no small talk. Just 3 words. "You live here?" I nodded. "Yeah. Just a couple blocks that way. Been fishing here for years." He squinted at me like I had just confessed to robbing a bank. Then he pointed at the lake and said, "You can't fish here. This is private HOA property. That'll be a $75 fine." At first, I thought he was joking. I even laughed a little, nervously. But he didn't crack a smile. He started writing something down on his clipboard, slow and dramatic, like I was being booked for a felony. Then he handed me a slip of paper, my very first HOA violation. I looked at it in disbelief. "You're seriously fining me for fishing?" He nodded like it was the most normal thing in the world. "The lake is for visual enjoyment only. No recreational use is allowed without written approval." Visual enjoyment only? What does that even mean? So I can look at the water but not touch it? Not even fish from the shoreline? I felt my face getting hot. Not from the sun, but from the pure, raw frustration building up inside me. I'd lived here for years. I paid my dues. I followed the rules. I didn't throw parties. I didn't speed through the neighborhood like some people did. But now I was being treated like a criminal over a fishing rod and a worm. As the inspector got back into his SUV and drove off, leaving a cloud of dust behind him, I stood there, still holding my rod, fish flopping at my feet, trying to process what had just happened. That fine wasn't just about fishing. It was about power, about control, about someone thinking they could push their authority where it didn't belong. And in that moment, I made a silent promise to myself. This isn't over. They messed with the wrong fisherman. I stormed back home, still clutching the violation notice in my hand like it was some kind of ticket to war. I tossed my tackle box on the porch, kicked off my muddy shoes, and went straight to the drawer where we kept all the boring adult paperwork, warranties, tax stuff, and that thick, soul-sucking binder labeled HOA Handbook. You know the one. The book nobody reads unless they're bored, angry, or in serious trouble. For me, it was a mix of all 3. I flipped through it, skimming through the usual nonsense, Yard maintenance rules, trash can placement guidelines, fence paint color codes, until I found what I was looking for, anything about the lake. And then, there it was, Section 14B, clear as day. Lake access and usage is restricted to HOA-approved activities only. Fishing is prohibited without prior written consent. Seriously? Prior written consent? Like I needed to ask permission to enjoy nature? I'd been fishing at that lake for over 3 years. Never once had anyone said a word. No signs posted, no emails, no warnings. Just me, my rod, and a few quiet hours every week. But apparently someone had decided to complain, someone who clearly had nothing better to do. That's the thing about neighborhoods like this. There's always that one person, the self-appointed rule enforcer, the person who watches everyone else's business through their blinds like it's a full-time job. So now the HOA was cracking down, trying to make an example out of me. But here's the part they didn't count on. I don't take well to being pushed around. I wasn't going to sit back and let some clipboard-wielding buzzkill tell me I couldn't enjoy the lake I had fished at for years. I had questions, and I wanted real answers. So I did what any ticked-off guy with decent Wi-Fi and a little too much free time would do. I started digging. At first, I Googled generic things. Who owns lakes in HOA neighborhoods? And can HOA fine for using public water? The results were vague and not very helpful. But then I thought, what if the HOA didn't even own the lake? What if they were just acting like they did? That's when I got serious. I pulled up the county's public land records database, the stuff most people don't even know exists. It took a while, but after some clicking and scrolling, I found the map of our neighborhood. Each lot had a number. Every piece of land had an owner attached to it. I zoomed in on the lake, and then my jaw dropped. The name listed as the owner wasn't the HOA. It was a private developer, some LLC I'd never heard of. I did a little more research and found out the company had gone bankrupt a few years ago. The land around the lake, including the lake itself, had technically been sitting in legal limbo ever since. The HOA had just assumed control. No formal purchase, no paperwork filed, just assumed that since nobody else was stepping in, they had the right to make the rules. I sat back in my chair, stunned. So let me get this straight. They fined me for using something they didn't even own? Oh, this was bigger than fishing now. This was about principle, about justice, about standing up to fake authority. The best part? I dug a little deeper and discovered the lake was still for sale. The bank that inherited it from the bankrupt developer hadn't sold it off because no one wanted to deal with zoning issues or weird access rights. But me? I didn't care about any of that. I had an idea. A crazy idea. The kind of idea that could flip this whole situation on its head. And I was just the kind of guy who'd follow through with it. And that's when I stumbled onto something shocking. Something that flipped the entire situation on its head. While scrolling through the county land records, half expecting to hit a dead end, I came across the parcel number for the lake. I matched it with the lot number on the HOA map. And that's when I saw it. Right there, in bold print. The lake wasn't owned by the HOA. Nope. It belonged to a defunct LLC, a private developer who had filed for bankruptcy nearly 5 years ago. Apparently, they had originally intended to build some kind of lakeside community center or private club, but the project tanked when the economy dipped. The company went under, and the lake became what they call a non-performing asset. Basically, a piece of land no one knew what to do with. And here's the kicker. The HOA had been acting like they owned it all along, setting rules, enforcing fines, and bluffing their way through it. Legally, they had no right to stop me from fishing. None at all. And the deeper I dug, the better it got. Not only was the HOA bluffing, but the lake, and the surrounding property, was actually up for sale through a bank holding company. The kind of forgotten listing buried on a government website, where properties go to sit and collect digital dust. And the price? Let's just say it was shockingly low. Because of weird zoning issues, outdated infrastructure, and lack of road access on one side, no developer had touched it. No one saw value in it. But me? I didn't care about zoning. I didn't care about building. I cared about one thing: fishing in peace, without getting harassed by a wannabe HOA sheriff. So I started making calls. I talked to the bank, then a local real estate lawyer, then the county office, just to confirm the paperwork. It took 2 weeks of back and forth, some forms and a wire transfer, but I pulled the trigger. And just like that, I was the official legal owner of the lake. Every shimmering ripple, every bug-covered lily pad, every fish swimming beneath the surface, mine. The moment I got the call that the papers were finalized, I didn't even wait. I grabbed my fishing rod, threw on my lucky hat, and headed straight down to the lake like I owned the place, because now I actually did. I walked right past the HOA sign that had been there for years and yanked it out of the ground. Then I found the exact same spot I was fined at just weeks earlier, baited my hook, and cast my line. And like fate was working overtime, not even 5 minutes later, I saw that same white SUV crawling down the road. The HOA inspector. He saw me. I saw him. He slammed on the brakes so hard that gravel sprayed from under his tires. He got out of the car, already opening his mouth to yell something, but I didn't say a word. I just turned to him, smiled, and gave him a little wave. Then I pulled out the deed from my tackle box and held it up like it was a golden ticket. He stood there frozen, sunglasses hiding his eyes, but I could see his jaw clench. "Any issues?" I asked calmly, reeling in my line. He didn't answer, just got back in his SUV, turned around, and drove off. That was the day everything changed. The day I stopped being the quiet guy with a fishing hobby and became the owner of the lake the entire neighborhood used to think they controlled. Oh, and I had plans, big ones, because owning the lake meant I could do a lot more than fish. And trust me, revenge was only getting started. Now I could have just let it go. I mean, kick back in a lawn chair, cast my line whenever I felt like it, and soaked in the sweet taste of quiet revenge. I had what I wanted: the lake, the freedom, and the legal paperwork to back it all up. But nah, they fined me. They humiliated me. They made me feel like some kind of criminal over a bass. And that needed a little something extra. So I went home, cracked open Photoshop, and whipped up a sign that would say exactly what I needed it to say. Private priving. No trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted. Big, bold, and in all caps. I printed it, laminated it, and nailed it right into the ground at the lake entrance, where the old HOA visual use only sign used to be. Poetic, really. And then, boom, the chaos started. The neighborhood Facebook group blew up within hours. You'd think I had built a nuclear facility by the water the way people reacted. Parents were outraged. Where will our kids swim now? Kayakers were confused. We've always had access. One guy, Greg of course, tried sneaking in at night with his fishing gear, thinking I wouldn't notice. But I had installed trail cams the day after the deed transferred. Guess what, Greg? You were caught red-handed, flashlight in your mouth, climbing through the shrubs like you were in a Mission Impossible movie. So, naturally, I printed out the trail cam photo, wrote, "Nice try, Greg," across the bottom in red Sharpie, and taped it to the sign. Let's just say, it became a bit of a legend. People started calling me Lake Lord in sarcastic posts. Someone even made a meme of me holding a bass with laser eyes. I'll admit, it was kind of funny. But the HOA? Oh, they were furious. A week later, I got an official invitation to attend an emergency HOA board meeting. The tone of the email was very serious. Legal sounding. You could tell they were trying to intimidate me back into line. So I showed up, sat down at the long, overly polished table. 4 board members, all stiff as boards. Clipboards, printed agendas, the whole 9 yards. They tried to open with some fake friendly talk, how the lake had always been a shared community space, and how my actions were negatively impacting neighborhood harmony. I let them talk. Then I leaned forward and said, "You fined me for fishing," I said. "So I bought the lake. This isn't a democracy, it's private property, and you're not invited. Mike, drop. They stared at me like I had just confessed to burning down the clubhouse. One guy looked like he was about to have a full-blown meltdown. Another muttered something about consulting legal counsel. I slid a copy of the deed across the table and said, "You're welcome to check the county records. It's all there. Have a great evening." Then I stood up, turned around, and walked out. No looking back. Since then, the HOA hasn't said a word to me, not a peep. The lake remains closed to the entire neighborhood. I go fishing whenever I want, sometimes just to spite them. I even bring a speaker, blast some classic rock, and wave at anyone who walks by. Because at the end of the day, they turned it into a power game, and I just happen to play it better. Sometimes the best revenge is ownership. Since then, things have been quiet. Peacefully quiet. Every morning, like clockwork, I grab my coffee, sling my fishing rod over my shoulder, and stroll down to the lake, my lake. There's no drama, no barking HOA threats, no clipboard patrol. Just the soft sound of water, birds chirping, and the occasional splash of a fish taking my bait. I fish alone now, and honestly, it's never been better. Sometimes neighbors still walk by. A few give me that awkward smile like they don't know whether to wave or glare. Others flat out ignore me, pretending the man with the deed doesn't exist. But every once in a while, someone tries to challenge me, asking who gave me the right to block everyone else from the lake. That's when I politely invite them back to my house, where the deed hangs proudly in a frame on my living room wall. Centerpiece of the whole room. Right between my mounted base and the no trespassing sign I kept for the memories. That usually ends the conversation. As for the HOA, oh, they're still trying to maintain the illusion of control. I still get their little monthly newsletters, the ones filled with pastel-colored clip art and reminders about lawn height regulations. I toss them straight in the recycling bin. One day, though, they actually reached out with a proposal. They wanted to rent the lake back for community use. Barbecues, paddleboarding days, maybe even a neighborhood picnic. Their offer? A whopping $25 an hour. I laughed out loud. Then I emailed back with a counteroffer, $225 an hour. Triple the fine they slapped on me just for fishing. They declined, of course. No surprise there. The HOA isn't used to being told no. But here's the best part. This whole story? It went viral. Someone in the neighborhood leaked the trail cam photo of "Nice try, Greg." That made its way to Reddit. And within days, my phone was blowing up. YouTubers, TikTokers, even a local radio station wanted interviews. Memes started flying. One guy drew cartoon versions of me holding the lake deed like a treasure map. Some people called me petty. Some called me a legend. And honestly, I don't care what side people are on. Because here's the truth. I paid less for that lake than most people pay for a used car. And now, I've got peace, I've got the best fishing spot in the zip code, and I've got a story that'll be told around backyard fire pits and Facebook groups for years. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if they'd just left me alone. If they hadn't gotten so power-hungry over a simple fishing trip. I never would have looked up land records. Never would have made that call. Never would have owned a lake. All they had to do was let me fish. But they picked a fight with the wrong guy. Because here's the thing. Quiet people, we're thinkers. We don't lash out. We plan, we observe. And when pushed far enough, we buy the battlefield. So yeah, maybe it was a little petty. Or maybe it was the most peaceful revenge anyone's ever pulled off. Either way, the moral of the story is simple. Don't mess with a quiet fisherman. He just might buy the whole lake. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more amazing content. Don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.